It's nice to see smiling faces in the audience this evening. And a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to CNBC-TV18 and Zetwerk presents Make 2025 for Bharat and Beyond. It's truly an honor to be here amongst visionary leaders, the brightest minds, change makers, shaping the future of India's manufacturing story. India's ambition to emerge as the global manufacturing powerhouse is not just a vision. It is the heartbeat of our growth story. In 2024, CNBC-TV18, in partnership with Zetwerk, launched the Smart Manufacturing Summit, which set the stage for a new era of industrial excellence. And today, building on that success, we return with a renewed purpose, a bigger platform, and a bolder vision, Make 2025. So may I request you all to kindly give yourselves a big applause, and all those of you watching us live, please give yourselves a big round of applause as we move into the future together. And now, let's begin the proceedings with a power-packed panel discussion with some of the finest leaders of the manufacturing sector. This session will explore how India is building the factory of the future, one that is smart, digital, sustainable, and globally competitive. May I take the pleasure to welcome on stage Ritu Singh, the Deputy Editor, CNBC TV18, to join us and moderate the panel discussion on building India's factory of the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big applause, and over to you, Ritu.
Thanks so much, and just a reminder to everyone, we're live on CNBC TV18's social media handles on YouTube, so stay tuned. As our host was saying, India stands at a defining moment in its manufacturing journey. Supply chains and globally they're shifting, technologies rewriting industrial playbooks, and sustainability is now very much a business imperative. The factory of the future is not just a distant dream, it is being built right here in India right now. From automation to AI to energy resilience, supply chain agility and digital twins, India's manufacturing ecosystem is evolving rapidly. But what is going to truly define our competitiveness in this next decade is a technology, talent, or transformation at scale. Tonight, we're going to bring together some of the foremost leaders in manufacturing and technology to decode exactly that and to sketch the blueprint of India's next generation factory. So without any ado, let me welcome our special guests for tonight, starting with Mr. Vijay Krishnan Venkatesan, the Managing Director at Kenmetal. Please join us on the stage, Mr. Vijay. And a big round of applause for all of our guests joining in tonight. Mr. Muthu Subramaniam, Managing Director, General Manager at Yuma Energy. Up next, we have Mr. Saurabh Gupta, Director of Integrated Supply Chains at Honeywell. Mr. Nagarajan KPK, Head for Digital Twin at the Tractor and Farm Equipment. Sanjeev Kumar Singh, Chief Operating Officer at Ather Energy. Nikhil Malvarapu, Joint Managing Director at Centrum Electronics, and Josh Folger, CEO of Electronics Zetwerk. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We'll wait for all of you to take your seats. If I may just request you to remove your lanyards. Thanks so much again, gentlemen, for being here tonight. It's such a pleasure to have all of you leaders from the manufacturing and technology space. And Vijay, let me start with you there on the right side. You've sort of had a front row seat to this evolution we've seen in India's manufacturing capabilities. To begin with, what are the biggest gaps we still need to bridge to get to this factory of the future if you're not already there?
Thanks, Ritu. It's an excellent question to kick off today's evening. India is at the cusp of, as we call, the manufacturing revolution, right? And before I get to answer your question, I'm going to just give some statistics why it's very critical to answer your question, and it's a beautiful question. Today, let's take 15% of our GDP. That means $600 billion is the manufacturing output for us. At 10 trillion, at same 15%, it's a 1.5 trillion output. That means $900 billion of addition is going to happen in the manufacturing sector in terms of output. Now, this is not going to be linear. It's going to be geometric. And that means we need a lot of transformational effort which needs to be done in the manufacturing sector. Now, the factories of the future will have to go through a transition because we have several manufacturing facilities available in India today. Some will come greenfield, which will have the advantage of right from day one implementing what we call Industry 4.0, connected devices, digitized factories, use of AI and data-driven manufacturing to control quality, output, performance, everything, right? But what's going to be critical is we also have factories which are 60, 70, 80 years old with a multi-generational workforce. That means there are people between 50 and 60, 40 and 50, 30 and 40, 20 and 30. So the critical thing is reskilling, upskilling of labor is going to be very critical. It's also about how do we invest in robotics, automation, supported by AI, right? AI is going to be a big play in terms of the transformation, what we have to do in India, where that's going to make India highly competitive, which will enable us just not to support the 1.5 trillion manufacturing output which needs to come, but also be in the top 1 or 2 in the global arena to be able to compete at the global arena with the quality, with the technology, and with delivery which is required to be probably a global leader.
Well, Vijay, you very beautifully set the context for this panel discussion, so thank you for that. We're going to touch upon many of those topics during the course of this conversation. But Muthu, at the heart of this transformation that Vijay is talking about is energy. Just tell us how you're using energy at your facility, leaders in your arena, to turn this strategy into a competitive advantage, not just a cost function.
Sure. I think it's a wonderful question. I just want to give a little bit of a context where, what we are doing on the ground, right? So we're in the business of battery as a service in which we package energy and then we provide it to the end users to swap the batteries for two-wheelers and three-wheelers. So our core business element is energy, right? So efficiency is core of it. If you look at energy, there's two sides to it. One is sustainability, and then the second part is efficiency part. I think the sustainability part, a lot of folks are addressing it, be it solar, wind, et cetera, et cetera. Efficiency is what we have control in terms of how you get the energy from the grid, how effectively you use it in your facilities and you vend it. In all practical reasons, we are running factories in every corner of Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, et cetera, where we are running our network, right? So we use advanced data models where we monitor energy usage for every charging units, every battery pack that we are providing to our consumers. So we know how every unit of energy is coming into our facility and how it's being vended effectively to our customers. And we continuously work on improving that aspect, right? So from the energy pipeline, which is the socket, to the battery pack that goes into the vehicle. So we're continuously optimizing that part of the equation to be more efficient and to stay ahead of the curve.
Well, sustainability is very much at the heart of this transformation for future factories that we're talking about. But Saurav, let's talk about resilience. We've spoken about energy and what's happening globally in terms of transformation. But if we've learned anything from the last, if I would just say the last few months, is that supply chains are very disruptive. I mean, globally, the environment is changing so fast. What has changed in how you now stress test your supply chains for these kind of shocks that you can't really preempt?
Yeah, I think we are into the scenario where there are a lot of disruptions from last several years.
Way too many.
Too many, and it started with pandemic. It started with geopolitical. It's demand supply gaps. These are all major disruptions which is coming all the way, and that is how. And same time we are transforming the factories. We want to be a future factories where we are talking about the AI. We are talking about the data analytics. We are talking about the talent. I think for and with all these external disruptions, I think we don't have much room to bear these losses or inefficiencies which may come all our way to adapt all these technologies. So adoption of all these technologies, I think the major ones, 3 areas I would say where we need to work upon. One is the people. Because again, adoption begins with the people. It's not the platforms, right? And that is how the people front we need to work upon. We need to upskill, like Muthu already mentioned. We need to upskill. We have to reskill our employees. And the second thing is, all about the data quality. We are talking about the AI, but data quality, good data quality drives good decision making. So whatever data we are into the environment where it's all data-driven networks are there. All our assets, all our processes, all our networks, all our partners, they are integrated with all this data-driven ecosystem. wherein, the data quality matters a lot, because you want, on the collection of the data, the system should take a decision, right? So in that environment, the data quality is important. So I think data is another area which we need to look into. And I think third one is all about the sustainability. I think it's a sustainable supply chains what we are looking for, and I think wherein we need to work and develop our supply chains to move towards the sustainability and meeting the carbon neutrality, emission targets, and all that stuff.
Well, all three are very important: people, data, or sustainability. But let me pick up on that point about data, and Mr. Nagarajan, ask you about that. I mean, when you're creating digital twins to bring in operational efficiency, how are you linking real-time data to ensure, from your tractors and supplies, that there's a true living digital twin out there?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. See, I always pursue digital twin as humans. Okay. When I say humans, so starting from ancient days, they started to observe themselves through water surface. How they look like, what is their appearance, then later comes on the mirror. So the invention was happening, so they were able to have in their hands, they were able to observe themselves closer and able to, again, make their appearance in a better way. And by 2010, there is a biggest evolution with the technology that was happening. It is the digital mirror, that is the selfie camera, where it helps us to bring the insights. So if you see in all these three evolutions, the personas are humans. But the insights which are hidden inside them, now it is started exposing.
We're still talking about tractors and farm equipment.
Yes. So that is how we are trying to connect it with the tractors. So where we have been making tractors for the past 60, 70 years, and there is no sensors, but it was running good. Now, with the addition of all these sensors, we were able to dwell and we were able to understand the deeper insights of how it is behaving, where it is behaving, who is making it, and how the performance is happening over a period of time, how we can help the farmers to improve the performance. So that is where we are doing as part of digital twin at TAFE.
All right, that's quite interesting. Sanjeev, we often hear about your Hosur plant, for instance, often from your founders, as this model for smart manufacturing. Just give it a bit of an insight into what's really going on there, how digital maturity that you achieve is in scale with the kind of production growth you're anticipating there.
So two things, I think, when you look at digital and when you say smart manufacturing, I think people misunderstand many times that when you make a factory smart, you are making it independent of human beings. You are making it independent of the operational rigor, discipline that is needed on the shop floor. Before I answer the question, I want to emphasize on the fact that there is no alternate to having an operational rigor, discipline in the shop floor. Point number one, right? And why it's important, if you are designing your factory and you're not keeping the core process in mind, then how do you make it robust? Digital will only make it garbage in, garbage out. So it will only make that process more efficient. And hence, I think when we started building our factories, it was very clear to us that while we aim to make a very smart manufacturing factory, we aim to make a digital factory, we have to retain the core essence of manufacturing, which ensures that, say, hey, you look at your processes are made by human beings, and you have to ensure that your processes are robust enough. Once you at least are able to think about how the robustness of the process is going to ensure that you get what your customer wants, is when you start wearing the lens of how can it, now there are two ways to look at it. Should we complete on how do we put the process, so there is a manufacturing process, logistic process, warehousing process, and then start thinking digital? The answer is no. That's where again people make a mistake. When we say process has to be robust, should we first finish that? What we do is we start working in parallel. So when we say, hey, how do we make my process robust? We also think about what is the digital blueprint that should be there. Because once I have defined the process without wearing the lens of how will I get data, and he pointed out very nicely that you need accurate data. If you're not thinking about how will you pick up accurate data from a process, you have not thought about how will you store the data on a process, you'll end up making a very robust process, but you can't digitize it later. So I think there are two aspects of it, and what we kept in mind is is let's focus on the robustness of the process on one side. And second is always keep in mind that we will make it digital. So again, as a startup, right? I mean, when we put up a factory, of course, we also had limited resources, and every company grapples with limited resources. As startups, we have to do more than others, right? So you can't say, hey, I'll put a factory where I'll put 100% digital process in place right from beginning. You have to be selective. Where should I start from? What will have the maximum impact on my customer, right? And prioritize, because again, it's not about make it 100% digital, whether process is good or bad is one part, but also digitize everything, what do you gain out of it, right? So I think what we did is we took a very calibrated approach. Think of process first, but think of digital while defining the process. So tomorrow you want to make it digital, you're able to do, that's second. Third one is how do we ensure that there is a ready digital blueprint available, which we can follow as a path. And the fourth one is digital just for the sake of digital doesn't make sense. I mean, in the end, everything costs money, right? So whether you're collecting data costs money, storing data costs money, crunching data costs money, right? So don't look at digital just for the sake of digital. And fifth one is, I mean, our product was probably the first two-wheeler, which was a connected product. And we leverage that to say, hey, let's not look at digital twin or digital from the perspective only of a factory and processes. Look at it from a product perspective, look at it from process perspective, and look at it also from a design and validation perspective. So we kind of build a digital twin, not only for the factory, but right from product, and having a connected product gave us that leverage to do that. Right from a connected product to factory to the engineering, so that we can see the impact of any change that we do in the factory, both upstream in the engineering as well as downstream in the product. So I think that's something that we try to do different, and I think it's yielding good results for us.
Well, we've been schooled pretty much in everything from EVs to farm equipment to, battery swapping to everything. Nikhil, let me come to you on electronics. Perhaps the fastest evolving in the value chain. What does the factory of the future in your field of work look like?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. First of all, thank you, Ritu, for having me on this. I think the uniqueness of the electronics industry is typically when you think of a factory, you envision a super factory like what Ather has in terms of a production line churning out high volume product. Yeah. What we do is on the other extreme, especially operating in the industrial sectors like defense, aerospace, medical technologies and so on, where the complexity for us is we have to manage something like 20 to 25,000 different unique components to make about 500 different products every month, each of which has something between 60 to 100 different manufacturing processes, right, or steps. So for us, what the factory of the future, and I think what Sanjeev alluded to was very right, what is it that we need? And I would say it's really the integration of all of these things to provide some sort of an insight that can be acted on much faster, right, fundamentally. So a couple of the examples that we're doing, for example, on the basic SMT line, which I would say is the fundamental thing of any electronics manufacturing process, the machine-to-machine communication, intelligence, and feedback loops is something that we've implemented, right? So before it was you had a step, and the next step was to inspect whether the previous step was right or not. Yeah. Now we are not only able to just control that, but provide a feedback to correct the process and the control of that to have a better outcome. Similarly, on the supply chain, which again is a very complex thing, the time we have obviously a lot of fluctuation in customer demand, and we need to be able to react quickly to that. Yeah. So how do we take that and flow it down to our supply base, which is significant? So integrating the ERP systems with our customers, with our suppliers, and having a quick reaction to do all of this, some of the things that we're doing.
Remaining agile while you do all of those complex processes. But Josh, thanks for patiently standing by as we hear from all of the experts. But you're someone who works across sectors in manufacturing. From your vantage point, tell us, how are you helping India make that leap to being a factory of the future?
Well, I mean, I think I echo with what my colleagues on the stage have said. I think India is in the cusp of the next level. I think India is going to evolve into, today I think it's a top 5 demand center. I think that's going to become the top 3 demand center. And I think demand centers are going to drive, where supply chains are built and verticalized. And so India is got the twin engine, the domestic market set up there. And because of a larger growing domestic market, it's also going to become an export-worthy market, for proximal markets or markets where we friendshore, or markets where there are product adjacencies, right? So, and the beauty is India is one of the very few countries in the world where you can actually verticalize. And so now what that translates to India is the people of India and enterprises here is you have to become world class. And everybody in the stage here are world class. You go to any of our factories today, it's world class. Our yield levels are the best in the world, the technology. So there's nothing second class here. And so now automation, if you just take that as an example, is in different levels in India today, right? But that's just one piece of the longer thing. So, but the beauty is, I think Vijay talked about multi-generational workforce. I feel that, yes, there are some gray-haired, no-hair oldies on the stage here, Sorry to...
Lots of wisdom collectively here.
Exactly, a lot of wisdom. But I feel that the newer generation is very digitally savvy. So all the things, was talked about, being digitally savvy and things like that is definitely going to help us, in a way, leapfrog ahead. So I don't think we, first of all, have the time to have the learning curve, but I don't think we need that learning curve if we are able to quickly adopt and sort of build these supply chains in India. So.
Well, nothing second class about this panel for sure. Vijay, let me pick up on that very interesting theme you brought up, Josh, about the huge domestic consumption market here in India. But that said, we are manufacturing here for the world as well. In terms of globally, the expectations of your clients, how are some of those, while you also manufacture for the India market, how are some of the expectations of your global clients shaping how you manufacture in India?
Actually, while Josh mentioned that India will be a big consumption, top 3 in the world.
Yeah, so with a 1.4 billion population, you can't not be.
Right, but that's going to push us to win, right? We can't take it for granted that others will not eat our lunch, right? Because if we are third largest market, there is going to be every country, every manufacturer around the world is going to look at this pie. Now, what's helping us is when we are working with, let's say, global markets, let's say, especially in manufacturing clients who are from a Germany or a Japan or a South Korea, China, US, the requirements, especially when we talk about precision engineering, right, from starting off design, right, and how the design approvals happen today, right? It's all electronic. It's no longer the days where you send a printout and somebody signs off, nothing, right? You do integrate with your customer's ERP system, and which you also integrate with yours. So there is a sign-off on when you're doing an engineering design, which then translates into a manufacturing process, right? Then we look at quality requirements, and quality requirements right from prototyping. So I heard the digital twin. So we use a digital twin quite a bit when we do prototyping for our customers, because we want to make sure that before we get into the manufacturing, we have a sign-off on what it would look like. So we are 98 to 99% sure before we get into the manufacturing, so that it reduces lead time, one, and also the probability of failure is considerably reduced. Now, one is quality requirement. 3 is where we still have some work to do as a country is deliveries, right? It's first time right, but also deliver when we say we will deliver, right? That's going to go a long way, especially when we're talking about global markets, optimizing incoming supply chains, outgoing supply chains. So all this is, what it's doing is it's making us very competitive because we understand the global requirements.
Delivery in terms of timelines or infrastructure for delivery? What are you referring to?
It's a mix of both. So when I say delivery, it's about from the date a customer says that we are placing an order on you till the product reaches them, right? The entire time taken, the cycle time. And why it's important is there are countries, and I'm not naming them, who have mastered.
Please do.
Right? Like China.
Okay.
They've mastered in terms of when they say if it's 4 weeks, it's 4 weeks, right? You would be able to see. We might be saying that 7 weeks and deliver in 7 weeks, but we still will need to compress the 3 weeks, right? And that's not going to come by working harder. It's very systemic. It's going to be data-driven. It's going to be how do we leverage, like Nikhil spoke about, integration of ERP with so many other things, right? All this needs to be, and we have to look at it at a very strategic way in terms of how do we take time out, right? And that's what, when we're operating in international markets, is helping, because the customers are pushing us to get there, which also enables us to serve the Indian customers at a global standards, in a world-class standard.
That is the beauty of competition and
Yes.
how it makes you stronger. But Muthu, the other thing that's constantly evolving, and we spoke about some of the themes earlier, is battery chemistry and hardware. How do you make sure your systems are agile so they're able to adapt to these systems very quickly, or these shifts very quickly?
It's again a good question. It's going to be a tough answer. Hardware, there is no easy way. That's my take on it. It takes months, years, maybe a couple of years to develop and refine a hardware and you deploy. And if you had made the wrong decisions on the feature set that the hardware is delivering, or if your customer needs change, you are in trouble, right? So, but at the same time, when you are in a new ecosystem or you're developing a new ecosystem, you got to be agile enough to be able to not completely avoid the risks, but manage the risks. So for example, you talked about battery chemistry, right? So our earlier generation pack was able to cater to a certain use case to be exact, for low-speed vehicles. That was not able to provide enough power for high speed or three-wheelers, etc. So what we have done is we were able to leverage existing IP, and then was able to change the chemistry and able to package more power or more capacity within the same volume. So now our latest generation pack, we are able to cater to mid-speed, high-speed two-wheelers and also three-wheelers. So that's one way of managing the ever-changing need for hardware. On the software/digital solutions, it's relatively easier, because you can launch an app or a software suite, and then you can push updates on a daily basis, weekly basis to the evolving needs of customer, which we do in our operational technology stack that we use to ensure that a battery is available for our customers anytime they want. And also all the interactions they do on the app that we have enabled to or provided to our fleet customers, we constantly push features, updates to be able to enhance their experience and make the experience seamless when they interact with our systems to get new battery swapped.
Well, speaking of things that are evolving, and you spoke of a whole host of them, Saurav, emerging technology, I mean, that's changing, much faster than in a decade, whether that is AI, we heard about digital twins. I just want to understand, from all of these Industry 4.0 tools that you've used, which one has had the most impact, the most tangible outcomes?
So I think it's primarily it's automation and digital transformation, which is changing the things, which is changing the efficiencies, which is improving the productivity of our factories. And we have a huge focus on AI. And, for again, like I mentioned earlier, again, for AI, again, it's your data. You have to have a right data in place. You have to capture the data. For that, again, you have to have a huge dependency on the humans. And you have to do a lot of upskilling and, reskilling of your workforce to understand or adapt those technologies. So that is one. And another thing is, which is important, is, with all these adopting all these technologies, again, it's more of a, how you can scale up the operations. You have to begin with the pilots. You have to understand the data accuracies. You have to understand the latency performances, and based on that, then you have to launch the technologies at the mass scale. So that is how, and to answer it, it's more of a, automation and digitization, where we have a huge focus, and bringing all the data points, because in future, the workforce is retiring. Most of we don't have the good workforce available across the globe. The India, we have advantage. We have a lot of workforce. Most of our workforce is young in nature. Yeah. So again, we have advantage, but again, competing with the world, we have to focus on how we can upskill our workforce, and that is how, it's more of a talent, and it's more of a AI things, where again, data things becomes important.
Well, talent is definitely something we'll discuss. But before I move ahead, I just want to ask, maybe you could answer these shifting technologies we've constantly been talking about. From all of you that we've heard, is it a bit of a risk also how quickly technologies are shifting and the kind of investments you have to make each time to adapt, and then the next big thing comes out?
See, actually, like to me personally, right? So when you say about the shifting technology, so it is shifting in a much faster way. Okay, and like if we start experimenting in something, then suddenly a new technology comes. So where the investment is again a biggest factor, where companies started to think whether they need to invest or not to invest. So having said that, so if we understand the impact of technology to the core basis, then we stand with the technology, what is of today. Okay, and if that is there, then we can able to identify what is the value addition that it's going to add. So if you realize that, before migrating into the next part, you can stay with the existing one and you can again like build a better product so that you can serve your customers in a much better way.
What are some of the things you look for in these emerging technologies to know whether they're here to make a lasting change, or whether they'll just be the next fad and then the world will move on to another new thing?
See, to me, if you look into the particular subject, then like it won't definitely help if you see technology as a technology. Okay, so like we have to like look into the aspect how it is going to serve the customers. So being customer at the first place, then if you define or if you start to experiment it, then you can feel about the value addition, how it is going to add. So that is how we are looking into things, and that is how we are building products.
Look at the value that the technology is bringing to your customers before you make a big commitment to it. But Sanjeev, you're nodding hard. I wonder if you want to add to that. But I also wanted to ask you about another thing. Besides your idea on investing in new technologies, the localization push. Especially from the government when we talk about manufacturing in India. What has been the hardest part of undertaking that journey, and some of the challenges you could outline? Perhaps some of the viewers could benefit from the kind of efforts you've made.
Sure, maybe I'll just add one point to what he mentioned. I think in addition to what he said, what we also look at is, are we talking about technology which is very specific to a sector? Or is it something which is affecting? I mean, customer, of course, is there, but is the technology having enough power or depth in it that it can impact multiple sectors across different segments? Then it's here for staying, right?
Can you give us an example of something you've seen in the EV space?
So I mean, in EV, of course, I mean, if you look at the whole tech stack around what you can do with a touchscreen dashboard. Now, is touchscreen technology-wise new? No. It's getting adapted from, let's say, a smartphone, a tablet, to a vehicle. Now, as a technology touchscreen, because it can spread to wherever human is interfacing with a device. Now, for sure, touchscreen as a technology will stay because there are many ways humans interact with devices, and it's providing a platform, for example, right? You look at, I think we should not look at technology from a narrow standpoint of a product of technology, but so internet is a technology. Now, internet gave rise to multiple sectors to do many things, but at the core of it, that's the technology. Today, we're talking about AI. Now, there are many platforms, there are many products, there are many solutions you can launch around it. The technology is the inherent ability of a machine to learn and tell you what you should do. Now, since that's so core, that's so in-depth, has the ability to transform almost every sector, why that technology will stay. And that's how we look at it from technology aspect, right? To answer your question.
On localization, the kind of
so I'll tell you, every localization is a challenge, right? Because there is a reason why it's not happening right now, right? So when you go on
because you didn't get PLI.
Sorry? No, I mean, see, there is a reason why something is not happening right now in India, right? And when you want to localize, you will face multiple challenges, right? What I think, rather than give an example, I'll tell you where we find the most difficulty, and where I think, to the point that Vijay made or Josh made about India at the cusp of manufacturing revolution and how we can be a manufacturing powerhouse, I think that's where probably also a problem lies. I think for a very long time, we in India has been has been an industry which has mastered the mass manufacturing setup, which has mastered efficient. So if you look at why people come to India, I mean, today it's changing, but for a very long time, people used to come to India to get the labor arbitrage, as simple as that. I mean, there is an X production cost somewhere else, there is a Y production cost in India because of the benefit that you get, and you come here. How many fundamental technologies did you work on? And for that, and there are numbers to compare. You compare India's R&D spend in comparison to the name that he mentioned. I mean, we are nowhere close to the R&D spend that we. So I think, and that's where we also struggle. So wherever, and again, EV as an industry is evolving, right? You need, and we as an org also believe in first principles. We don't say, let's do because someone else is doing. No, we say, let's do because it makes sense to do it. Now, when you want to take that approach, unless you have people and you want to localize something or want to do something, unless there are people who have fundamental engineering strength, who have fundamental R&D strength, you will find it difficult to do. So to localize something which doesn't have a lot of engineering asks, in general, is easier to do. To localize something where the depth of engineering, the depth of R&D required with your localization partners is very high, that's where we struggle the most. And I think if India has to become a manufacturing superpower, that's where the investment has to go. That's where we have to spend over disproportionately, in my opinion, to gain the leverage out of it.
Well, with your permissions, if I may deviate a little bit and Josh put you on the spot, since a lot of panelists are referring to this country we must not name, our neighbor, what are some of the things, we can learn from them in building a factory of the future, and what are some of the things you think India is doing better?
No, I think, I feel that with China, I'll name it, I think it's a policy, and the policy from the government has been long-term, right? And I think India has echoed that the last 10 years. The Make in India policy, the PLI schemes, now the ECMS schemes, in our electronics vertical is solid. The semiconductor is singled out as an area of vulnerability, and it's listed out really, really well, right? So I think if you look at China and India, we are mapping the policy now. Yeah. We are a bit late, but we are catching up. Right, and now the good news about coming later is the best policies around the world, right? So that's one. The next is the workforce strength, right? We are larger, and by
a margin, very recently.
Yeah, very recently, and it's still, I think, a hungrier workforce, right? So definitely younger. As well, and so I think that's a big advantage. In terms of technology is available to everybody. It's a common platform. You look at automation, you look at equipment, you look at the availability of digital tools. It's all there. So these are all common platforms. So it's quite easy to adopt. It's a question of do we do it when do we do it? I think it's going to be the question.
Well, these are the several benefits India has that you've highlighted, but what is it that we're doing better than perhaps the world can learn from?
I think maybe if you step away from manufacturing, the UPI stack has really democratized data. Yeah. Already there.
Well, not so much to teach the world in manufacturing yet.
Well, it is, right? It's making people digitally savvy. So when they come to our one of our factories, and the complexity, which our factories deal with. Yeah. So these, boys and girls really understand that I don't need to fill this sheet, right? You just need to, enter this in a tablet or whatever. So that digital savviness which has come in the last 5 years, I think is really going to help us leapfrog as well. So.
Well, Nikhil, just to close the loop on the investment and technology front, just give us your view at, in your field as well, how you distinguish between what is a fleeting trend, what is here to stay, and how you identify the right technologies and the right risks to take.
We've chosen, first of all, to be in segments where the life cycle of the products are typically longer, right? So that saves us from, in a certain way, from being outdated every 1 year or 2 years. Yeah. And in fact, the big challenge for us in our industry is how do we maintain continuity of the products, even in the face of such rapid change of the core technologies. So a lot of what we do in our ecosystem is built around basically in ensuring that there is product lifecycle continuity, right? Obsolescence management, redesign of the products to be able to ensure that it's still compatible with what is delivered and so on.
So the benefit of a longer life cycle allowing you to see how the technology plays out before you have to change too quickly.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But I still say I think it's always the decision of which technology to adopt or not ultimately is driven by the customer and to a certain extent your competitors.
Well, Josh, let me quickly address another point with you, which is you expanding your own capacity. Now you have your 7th plant in Tamil Nadu. How do you manage, or how do you balance, rather, the idea of being a platform that is providing manufacturing solutions for other businesses while also being a competing manufacturer yourself?
Well, I mean, I think some of the our customers are here on the so I'll be careful what I say. But we pick locations which are closer to our customers. I think that's important. So you support their supply chain, their local supply chain needs, so that the delivery cycles are closer or quicker and whatnot. We also choose locations, which have logistics advantage, inbound or outbound. Or it could be, labor arbitrage. There are certain parts of India which are cheaper than the other, right? So this is how we choose locations, right? Now what we try to do is we try to standardize many standard practices and, data collection, the ERP system, the MES systems, the people systems, all these are standardized across, right? So regardless of where this factory is, there are a lot of things which are standard. So you can, in theory, walk into any of our factories. We can do this. Now the challenge is going to be, and this is what we are working on, and we will, succeed. Is can we make our factories capable of doing any product? Is that the right thing? Is it the wise thing to do? Because there are examples I can say in automotive space. So where we went very heavy on auto in the south, and we serve some amazing customers in the south, and we've learned a lot from them. But suddenly there is a demand in the north, in our factories in NCR, and so the question is, how do you transfer this skill set? Because automotive requires certain rigor, which is sort of norms there, and so guess what? The teams are here now. So their teams are here learning before we ramp up there, and so we try to do this balancing because I think the demand may vary and whatnot. And so coming to the question of how we operate our factories, and we have to be agile. We understand that demand can be seasonal, but it can be fairly fleeting as well. And so we in our business, I would love to have his order book, which is stable, long term and whatnot. We do in some cases, we don't in many cases, and so we have to be agile, and I think that's advantage which Vijay was talking about China, right? That 4 weeks was a 7-week delta. Yeah. So you have to attack all your bottlenecks and really try to crash your delivery times with the quality, with the cost, in mind, and so that's how we have to drive our operations so that we can actually not just be a labor arbitrage story, but actually a delivery arbitrage, a quality arbitrage, facility or an enterprise as well. So.
Well, Vijay, let me just toss that to you as well, since we've been talking about investing in technology. How do you ensure you plan your innovation pipeline, so to speak, when you sit down to do it, to ensure that you stay ahead of the curve, but at the same time not drive up all your costs?
See, first of all, my personal belief is that innovation never drives up the cost, because that's the fuel to grow the organization.
Well said.
Right?
So that takes care of all the arguments
on this side. It's not a cost, it's an investment. So, we were in a world where I'm going to have a little bit of a time journey, right? You have, let's say, a small like a garage workshop where a customer wants A and a second customer wants something else, we can make it. From there, we move to one product run in millions, right? The famous Ford model, or how we do it in electronics. With the advent of digitization, I think the reality is there is a possibility to marry both at what we call the mass customization, right? Can we serve 1 million customers with 1 million variants without impacting the cost, right? Obviously, the systemic changes quite a bit. There are a lot of modular manufacturing, modular designs which comes into it. Now, when we talk about innovation, because this change is so rapid today, any field we take, the change in models, the change in requirements, there are shorter cycles. Now, the innovation also needs to keep pace with it, right? We at least, personally, we don't operate in something like pharma where you do a research for 8-9 years, do trials. If it's core engineering and there are customers like automotive or let's say oil and gas or energy customers, the lead time what used to be given to our suppliers for product innovation has compressed, right? And the compression needs to come by using different technologies. It's not by adding more people or expecting people to work 16 hours or people to be more productive. So personally, what we are doing is invest in a lot of technology, one. And two is also make sure there is a lot of repository of design of experiments which have either worked or succeeded, because we don't know what's the next customer's requirement is coming up. So it's about earlier, when we talked about the words called tribal knowledge in manufacturing, today we do it, we systemize it, right? It becomes organic because we have the ability today with the ability to have all the systems which are available, softwares which are available, and as you leverage generative AI or one of the new age tools, it's also compressing time for us, right? And even though the change is going to be faster, the process of innovation is also faster, especially from the field where we come. There could be fields it could be really difficult to do because you need to still go through the process, but even there I believe the AI is able to do models, right, in terms of how a chemical compound could react into a human, right? So the technology is really compressing. So the way to do it is we have to be ahead of the curve. Because I'm also touching upon the last question you posted to Josh, how we can be ahead.
Yeah.
I think we are a country which is very digitally savvy. We are a very creative mind. Combining that, innovation is something which we can do very well. And if we can do the right technology investments upfront, we are going to be ahead of the curve in a global landscape which is going to be very diverse but also changing very rapidly, right?
Well, yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it is changing rapidly, and amen to that. I hope we get to see that. But, let me quickly also address another huge theme. We've spoken a lot about technology, sustainability. Muthu, and let me address that with you, because fleet owners, OEMs, as they have to, get behind the sustainability mandate, how do you ensure that demand trickles down to you, and what are you doing to adopt?
Yeah, so in the context of OEMs, we do work with them closely, but we don't directly provide our services, so we don't really fall under their mandate. But that's totally opposite on the fleet side or other customers we're serving, right? Be it fleet or an individual customer. With the recent government push around, in some markets, all of the delivery had to be done over using electric vehicles. So that's coming, and that is generating a lot of tailwinds from our fleets, for our services. So we do work closely with the fleets in that context. In terms of how we look at, sustainability, right? So regardless of whether this mandate is there or not, being in the business of vending energy, we are looking into alternative sources of energy, for example, solar and wind. But there are some practical challenges in implementing those solutions into our network. For example, cross-border transaction. So, right, if you want to buy solar that's being produced in, let's say, Gujarat, and we want to bring it into, other markets that we are serving, there are, complexities in terms of practically bringing the power, and at least for now, financially, it's not very attractive. Although there are initiatives from the government side that is removing some of these, obstacles, I should say. For example, we're exploring group net metering, virtual metering, where we can work with the local, renewable energy vendor, and we can leverage group net metering to be able to use renewable energy in our network. And also this recent push around, similar to UPI, there is a UEI that's been in discussion also, right? When that becomes a reality, I think...
That would be unified energy?
Yes, unified...
interface?
Yes,
what
exactly, unified energy interface. When that becomes a reality, I think all of us, including enterprises, residential consumers, they will be able to produce and consume energy from all across India. I think that will actually make a sustainability push even more impactful and easy for everyone, to adapt and go forward with it.
Okay, that's an interesting new thing we've learned about today. But Saurav, quickly, sustainability, very core to our supply chains, very core to India's strategy. How are you embedding some of these green practices into your field?
So as a Honeywell, we have taken our ambitious commitments towards the carbon neutrality for all our facilities and operations by 2035. And all these commitments has embedded into the goals, company goals, has gone to the performance metrics of the executives of the organization. That is how the accountability is there across the organization. And coming on to the supply chain side, right now we are already into the scope 1, scope 2, emission controls measurements. Wherein all our facilities, we have done the baselining somewhere in 2020, 2021. And over and above, we are improving year on year to meet our commitments. That is how the focus is there. The scope 3 framework is still in progress for us. Apart from that, I think there is a lot of focus on sustainability packaging, the products that we make in our factories, how we can use the 100% sustainable packagings. Yeah. And green logistics is something where we are also working on to make a framework around how we can have and more of with green logistics, I would say it's more of a regional sourcing. You talk about the localizations. We are also having a lot of focus on regionalization by bringing supply chain closer to the region, and that is also the way we are meeting the resiliencies, across the supply chain. And talking about sustainability, I think there is another area where again, the compliance activities like in India, we have already, compliant to meet the EPRs, the extended producer responsibilities, wherein we are meeting the requirements with the way government has laid down the policies around the sustainability and all the things. So this is all, what we are doing right now in terms of bringing our supply chains more sustainable and more agile.
Well, Vijay, quickly, before I move on to the rest of the gentlemen, to just close the loop on the sustainability bit, if there was one big change you would want to see to ensure that there is, a greater push towards green manufacturing in India, what would it be?
A silver bullet? Oh, that's going to be difficult. So obviously, green manufacturing at its essence is going to be lowering the carbon footprint, right? And it involves a lot of things, right? From supply chain, sustainable sourcing, our own, how efficient is the manufacturing process. But I think India is already, to some extent, into the way, right? Especially for the publicly listed companies, if you are in India, the BRSR protocols. And I think there is a lot of, when somebody goes into the BRSR reporting, because we report 240 data points, out of which the environmental side also is quite a bit, right? Which pushes an organization to look at sustainable manufacturing. But we are still at the nascent stage.
Okay.
Now it speaks to the ESG parameters, whether you take a CBAM or a GRI, whichever standards we take globally. Now, can this regulation be both incentivized and also policed a little bit? Because this is like financial guidelines. As we move, like financial reporting, will BRSR or ESG reporting be scrutinized, standardized? We are getting there.
Yeah.
One is that, but how do we make it attractive for the consumer? When I say consumer, it could be all of us sitting here as consumers. It could be a business which is consuming, but what's the business case for them to buy because you're a green manufacturing? What's the incentive to fuel the demand, right?
Human consciousness is not
That's
not
one.
enough.
Like, can we do something like a GST reduction?
Oh, okay. Okay, if someone from the government...
Let me correct. I just gave that as an example, not directly a GST reduction, but is there some way that can fuel demand for green manufactured products? Because there has to be some form of incentive to fuel demand beyond consciousness,
Yeah.
right? And also, is there an incentive for green financing?
You think the younger generation will be more or is more attuned to some of those
They are
objectives?
very conscious, and they make it an effort to search for those.
Yeah, well, like you said, there is no silver bullet, but those are some of the things to ponder upon. But, very quickly, Nagarajan, I'll shift to you in terms of, skilling people, all that. At the very heart of this future factory that we're building for India, just tell us how at your, the work that you do, what kind of reskilling is required? What kind of gaps are you seeing that need to be filled?
So in our case, the particular agriculture machine case, so the core knowledge lies in our hands of our employees. So they are the one, they can build a proto within 3 months. So nevertheless, whether there is AI, whether there is the IoT, other stuff, they can build the product. So we should be very careful in upskilling that. So we have to understand what is the opportunity that we have with the AI or with the upcoming technology as part of digital twin or maybe IoT or maybe other stuff. And we have to understand what is the fuel that we are going to add to the existing thing so that it becomes empowered. So that is how we are looking into stuff. So where we feel AI is going to be one of the breakthrough technology that is going to add value. So let me maybe quote this example. So where right now most of our machines are becoming electronics. So we are very familiar with the mechanical device. As the electronics comes into play, the parameters are increased, the variations are increased. So we need to understand how the electronics is going to be, how the electronics is going to affect the mechanical device. So considering that, if we induce AI into the electronics that is run by the software, that helps our engineer to design a much better product, a product that is more affordable, a product again that can help the carbon neutrality. So that is how we are building things, and that is how we are choosing technologies that is empowering our existing employees.
Okay, Nikhil, Sanjeev, to both of you again. Nikhil, starting with you, what will the workforce of the future look like? And what are some of the skills you'd be looking for, specifically, say, when you look to hire the next set of engineers in your factories?
I think, it's obviously going to be a gradual change. I think, we see...
The benefit of a long-term cycle, of course.
No. It's nice to have, for sure. No, but I think there's clearly a lot of basic manufacturing technologies and all of that will continue to remain. I mean, not everything is going to change tomorrow, right? What I think is important for the factory of the future and for the people is really to create a culture in the company that fosters thought process and I would say initiative to really be able to emulate or pull in some of these technologies and deploy them in the process, right? And in fact, one of the things that we do as a recognition for some of our employees is to look at what somebody else has done in terms of a new automation or a new implementation. And this was actually something that was instituted by our chairman. It is a prize that is given to somebody for copying something that somebody else had done in part of the process, right? So, like I said, I think a lot of this is not just about, who the people are, but really about what is the kind of culture that you inculcate as part of the organization to be able to drive innovation. Right?
Sanjeev, what kind of skills are you looking for?
So I'll probably add, so I think we spoke a lot about digital, and so it's understood that we need people who, kind of adapt to that. I'll tell you where probably we have to be more careful, and where we are already careful about is, it's always the balance. I mean, we're not talking about lights out factory as of yet, right? It's going to take some time, and it's going to be a transition, which means we'll be in a phase where you need people who understand both the technology, the machine, the automation side of it, but also in a big way the people side of it. And whatever said and done, the manufacturing employs a lot of people. You're not going to replace them, which means the people who are going to be there have to still continue to work with them. So you can't go today and say, hey, let me look for someone who is very tech savvy, but cannot even understand How do you work with 5 people? How do you motivate 5? So I think the challenge today is you don't need one of them. You need someone, or you need more and more people who understand both aspects. To find someone, I remember when I started my career, there were people who could, kind of look at the product and say, this is bad. I mean, this is the kind of experience and skill they have built. At the same time, you look at many places where you find someone who would not be even looking at the part, not be looking at the product, not be looking at people, looking at some data, he or she will say, hey, this is something which is wrong, this is what needs to be fixed. Now, do we need one of them? The answer is no. Do we need both the skills? The answer is yes, in a way. So I think the challenge today is how do you get people who do not ignore either side of it, who find the balance to say, hey, tech is going to be there. I need to be tech savvy. I need to understand data. I need to plan better. I need to see how I can drive improvements through that. At the same time, how do they continue to work with people? How do they not ignore that aspect that essentially it's those hundreds and thousands of people who will have to work on the technology, who will have to work on the product, who will have to work on the assembly. And I think that's the challenge today because it's easy today to find more tech savvy people who say, hey, give me a computer, give me the work I'll do. Don't ask me to work with 10 people. So I think the challenge today is not to find, and I think many of us highlighted already, India generally is, by the virtue of, in our factories, you find people who are like 20 years old, and a lot of fresh graduates, fresh college, ITI and diploma. Now they know the technology. All of them have come from a world where everything about technology, AI. They can speak about AI, but can they speak to the person who is working on the next process to understand they're working in sync? The answer is very difficult. So I think a lot of human aspects of that is something which is what we find it more and more difficult. That's one. Secondly, someone who is open to kind of transition. So essentially, it will be a transition when dependence on people keep on going down and dependence on machines keep on increasing. Do people take that as a learning opportunity and hence work on that? So I think the way we look at it is, let's try to find people who are balanced. Let's try to find people who are progressive, but at the same time, do not ignore that manufacturing is built at a certain pace. It's built with certain processes where people are non-negotiable. You need to have people.
That's pretty much the textbook definition of these introverted tech geeks. That's exactly what you don't want. You should also have people skills. But Josh, quickly, what are the kind of skill gaps that you see currently in the workforce, and what will the workforce of the future look like?
Maybe I'll answer the first one, then I'll talk about the gaps. I think so our workforce, the new generational workforce which is entering, are in a hurry. Regardless of the demographic. So I think we have to keep up, with them. So factories which took certain things for granted cannot anymore. So I think you have to sort of challenge them. You have to provide the right facilities, for them. Otherwise, they're gone, right? So we have seen that in our factories when we do things right. You see the attrition and the absenteeism coming down, and there's better performance. So I think we have to understand that, empathize that, and move on. The second thing is that globally, Vijay talked about CBAM, and RBA is another, Responsible Business Alliance is another thing. So brands are enforcing this, going forward. You go to a tier 1 brand, these things are coming, right? So it actually, in a way, helps the workforce and us sort of grow this together, in a way. And so it's not anymore this old gringy factory where, you have, undesirable washrooms, things like that. You have to really keep up, right? Now, in terms of the gaps, right, I think while this space is happening, I feel that the associate level and at the technician level, where we spend a lot of time, we, some of our factories have like 90% women today, and so in a way the skill adoption is pretty quick. It depends on how you lay out your lines, how you sort of do the division of labor there. It's relatively easy to bring them up to speed. Technicians take a little longer, and so what we do is we work with top diploma schools, and we get these sort of kids, onboarded, and then we do that. The challenge I see, and this is something for us to become world class, is the middle management. We really have to get these guys up to world-class standards, because they set the clock, some of us are PowerPointers, or if they've gotten rid of PowerPoints, we are in Microsoft Word or Excel, the Excel reading data guys. And so, but then the execution has to happen, right? And then so there they need to understand what world-class is. When we say FPY, first pass yield, or the quality, we need to say what is the best in the world. When they show me a number 93%, so my question is that, and this is something we used to do, and I'm trying to do this now in Zetwerk, is in Nokia we used to flip this. It was called manufacturing failure rate. So 93% sounds good for most of us, who are backbenchers in school.
7% is too high.
So 7% failure is too high, right? And so then the when you say MFR, manufacturing failure rate changes. And so I want on-time delivery. So on-time delivery is 99%, sounds great. But there's 1% you didn't deliver, right? How many order lines did you miss, right? So that when you flip that and say that, well, you failed 1%, which is actually 30 order lines we missed this month, right?
So much for looking at the glass half full. But, we're running out of time, so let me just ask for concluding comments from all of you. Maybe, Josh, I'll start with you. In a single word, what will define the factory of the future? I mean, it could be technology, talent, something else.
Empowered people.
Empower people. Okay, Nikhil?
Say intelligent and integrated.
Okay, Saurav?
It's...
I'm sorry, Sanjeev. My bad.
So I would say it's a combination. I mean, it's not about one or the other. That's what I emphasize throughout my dialogue. I think it's going to be empowered people with technology.
You played it very safe on both sides.
No, actually, it's neither. I mean,
no,
one cannot
balance.
deliver.
Yes,
it's a balance. So I think you need empowered people with technology. That's what will drive.
Okay, Nagarjun?
Definitely technology is going to play a major role in that. Connectivity is going to be, again, slow. The geo thing is like already happened. Because of the geo thing, we were able to have the options of working from home. So definitely there is another another evolution that is going to happen. It may be from geo or maybe from the India thing.
Yeah.
So definitely that is going to play a major shift of empowering the culture, empowering the skill, and empowering us.
All right, Saurav.
It's about people mindset, the transformation, which is important.
All right, Muthu.
Yeah, I think it's people and technology that's connected together.
All right, Vijay, you have the last word.
Inventive, innovative, driven by people.
I was looking for a third eye. But okay, all right. On that note, gentlemen, such a pleasure speaking to all of you about something that's manufacturing. You made it so interesting, and we heard of so many new things, so much to learn from all of you. So it's been a pleasure. All of you gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us here, and thank you all for being a patient audience. But stay with us.
The Smart Manufacturing Summit 2024 marked a defining moment for Indian manufacturing. The two-day summit became a hub of ideas, strategies and collaboration, where every conversation sparked insights. And every celebration of pioneers highlighted India's industrial transformation. This season, as India's manufacturing story moves from resilience to reinvention, the Smart Manufacturing Summit returns in a whole new avatar, diving into the data and AI-powered future of industrial innovation. CNBC-TV18 and Zetwerk present Make 2025 for Bharat and beyond. The Smart Manufacturing Summit 2024 marked a defining moment for Indian manufacturing. The two-day summit became a hub of ideas, strategies and collaboration, where every conversation sparked insights. And every celebration of pioneers highlighted India's industrial transformation. This season, as India's manufacturing story moves from resilience to reinvention, The Smart Manufacturing Summit returns in a whole new avatar, diving into the data and AI-powered future of industrial innovation. CNBC-TV18 and Zetwerk present Make 2025 for Bharat and beyond. The Smart Manufacturing Summit 2024 marked a defining moment for Indian manufacturing. The two-day summit became a hub of ideas, strategies and collaboration, where every conversation sparked insights. And every celebration of pioneers highlighted India's industrial transformation. This season, as India's manufacturing story moves from resilience to reinvention, the Smart Manufacturing Summit returns in a whole new avatar, diving into the data and AI-powered future of industrial innovation. CNBC-TV18 and Zetwerk present Make 2025 for Bharat and beyond. The Smart Manufacturing Summit 2024 marked a defining moment for Indian manufacturing. The two-day summit became a hub of ideas, strategies and collaboration, where every conversation sparked insights. And every celebration of pioneers highlighted India's industrial transformation. This season, as India's manufacturing story moves from resilience to reinvention, the Smart Manufacturing Summit returns in a whole new avatar, diving into the data and AI-powered future of industrial innovation. CNBC-TV18 and Zetwerk present Make 2025 for Bharat and beyond. The Smart Manufacturing Summit 2024 marked a defining moment for Indian manufacturing. The two-day summit became a hub of ideas, strategies and collaboration, where every conversation sparked insights. And every celebration of pioneers highlighted India's industrial transformation.
Thank you, Ritu, and thank you to all our panelists for that insightful perspectives. Personally, for me, it's truly inspiring to see how India's manufacturing ecosystem is evolving at a precision engineering to smart automation, from sustainability to digital transformation. India is truly building for the world. Next up, we bring to you a fireside chat on one of the most exciting frontiers of the Indian manufacturing, building India's electronics-ready manufacturing state. As electronics become the backbone of global innovation, India is steadily emerging as a key destination for design, assembly, and scale. I would now like to invite on stage Neha Bothra, the Associate Editor, Forbes India, to moderate the session. I'd like to call upon our esteemed chief guest for this evening, Thiru M.D. Patil, the Minister for Large and Medium Industry and Infrastructure Development, Government of Karnataka. I now invite on stage Mr. D.P. Satish, the Group Editorial Advisor South, to please honor our guest this evening. Thank you, Mr. Satish, and over to you, Neha.
Sir, thank you so much for joining us today. We were really looking forward to this conversation, and it's so good to have you here with us. Could we have a round of applause, please? India's manufacturing story is at an inflection point. Global supply chains are realigning, automation is accelerating, and states are racing to position themselves as the next big electronics manufacturing hubs. In this context, Karnataka, which has long been a technology and innovation powerhouse. So today when we have you with us, we want to talk to you about what do you think? How do we look at this in terms of translating this legacy into a blueprint for India's factory of the future?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Today, as you know, Karnataka, and more importantly, Bangalore. So we are the Silicon Valley of India. We are the IT capital. We are number one in aerospace and defense, contributing more than 65% of the national's contribution. And globally, we are recognized as the third important ecosystem.
Yes.
So, of course, electronics is another area where in ESDM we were number one. And, of course, machine tools, we are number one. So we are the startup capital of India. So, list goes along a long way. And today, with the global scenario, what is happening, maybe the adversity, what is the tariff and all other things coming up from the US. And we see an opportunity out of every crisis like this. And it's an opportunity of our own talent with H-1B visa and other things, the tariff being here. I don't know how long it will take, whether it will be taken aback or otherwise, you know. So this is a great opportunity for Indian manufacturing houses to concentrate here and look for new avenues and also new destinations, new countries where we can export also. For example, we have this trade, India-UK trade, this one also, wherein a lot of things can be done with UK and other markets apart from US. Will be a new beginning for the country's manufacturing industries.
A new beginning, indeed. At this point, I also want to ask you and go back a little to use your very exceptional vantage point in this area to understand how do you see this industrial growth story evolving for Karnataka. Even if you were to look at it 10 years from now, what do you think will be the guiding force for you?
First of all, you know, this ecosystem has come pre-independence. If you take Karnataka's ecosystem, it is not developed in recent past. You take HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, BL, Bharat Electronics Limited, BHEL, Indian Institute of Science. So, and Mysore Maharaja contributing to many of those industries, public sector units, you know. So that was the first level of ecosystem of Karnataka being developed. And of course, that it was the educational institutions, particularly the medical schools, the engineering college, whereupon 30 years before, children from all the other states used to come to Karnataka for studies. Because there were no much medical colleges, engineering schools, and all this in various other states. Of course, in the last 30 years, 3 decades, every state has equal number of schools, engineering colleges, or medical school, dental, whatsoever. And that led to a great talent being developed here. You know. So that's how we emerged as the IT hub, the IT capital here. So similarly with likes of Kiran Majumdar, the Biocon, the biotechnologies companies and all this. So Karnataka has got a great history, and of course now in the changing scenario, now particularly, of course we do have manufacturing, electronics manufacturing, the Foxconn, the second largest Apple iPhone manufacturing after China. After China is the largest one, wherein we'll be manufacturing around 20 million iPhones, and the $2.5 billion investment here. So it started already the production. Nearly 6 million iPhones have been exported at Karnataka. India is now 40% of the US iPhone manufacturing in this one. So a lot more this one here in the semiconductor. We have applied materials. We have many more industries which have come here and all this. So we have now concentrating on of course, we do have steel industries, cement, sugar, because of the raw material, the sources here. But recently, we had a ambitious plan how we can make Karnataka as a global manufacturing hub. So we had a full day of session. We had invited top 80 companies, their CEOs, the top the management. They all participated except one. 79 people participated the whole day long. That Utpadana Manthan dealt with which are the sectors where we had to concentrate, So, which was going to be leading Karnataka to make the manufacturing hub, Yes, yeah.
Which are these sectors that will be driving the next wave of growth?
See, now things, of course, globally, of course, not in the manufacturing, of course, now everything will be discussed, whether it's a manufacturing or anything with a large or medium or small. AI is going to replace a lot of things there. Artificial intelligence, semiconductors in a big way, then quantum computing is not going to be the next this one. So it will be a new kind of manufacturing now. Robots will be replacing humans. So in manufacturing sector or elsewhere, even medical also, things are going to happen. And we have, of course, we have to concentrate on our aerospace and defense manufacturing, electronics manufacturing, and new age technologies. So many more, we were shortlisted around 6 this one. And of course, we do have Vision Group with us. But more, I was, after the Global Investors Meet, which was a very successful Global Investors Meet, which was not on paper, it was on reality, like I've been repeatedly telling, around 10.27 lakh crores of investments. And already a lot more has been grounded. And I always used to tell we'll achieve around 75 to 80%. So not many states, I don't want to make a comment, will announce 30 lakh crores, 40 lakh crores, 50 lakh crores on paper, But we do not believe in that, We said, we will see that all these commitments are genuine commitments and which will be translated into investments. And I'm hopeful we'll cross that 10 lakh crores.
That's fantastic. I want to step back a bit and ask you about the GCC boom in Karnataka, the IT boom that we saw in Karnataka. How do you think that manufacturing can also be as fascinating in Karnataka in terms of contribution to GDP?
See, now it is, as I've said, it's going you will see a new kind of a growth. And the global scenario, everything has made things very different now. So when it comes to AI, most of the AIs are from Karnataka. And if you take the global Fortune 500 companies, 400 plus companies are based in Karnataka. Whether it is Samsung, Boeing, or any other company, So Rolls-Royce recently had their setup here in the biggest manufacturing facility at GCC. So everything, all this manufacturing will now EVs, other things, everything it'll have So when I met in London, when I met the chairman of Ashok Leyland, I asked him, what are your manufacturing? So I said, I have to consult because all my diesel engines and all this will be of no use tomorrow because it's going to be EV, green hydrogen. That kind of this one is going to be there. And we have this technology, we are very, very strong. And every country will be looking towards Karnataka.
So when we talk about making manufacturing one of the main attractive areas for investors, how do you want to do this? Should it be incentive-led, or do you think that we need better reforms which can improve the ease of doing business index? How do you think Karnataka can actually become the favorite for global investors and manufacturers?
So recently, we have unveiled a new industrial policy, which is one of the best in the class. And of course, in EV, we had an earlier a policy, first state to come with a EV policy in 2017. Now we have made it a green mobility policy because the entire supply chain, right from batteries, everything has been involved. So we have a strong industrial policy, and of course there was a lot of this one we had to do on the single window clearances and all this. With Microsoft joining with us, so we have one of the best single window things which are going to be implemented shortly. I just finished a meeting with the Honorable Chief Minister regarding the single window. This one where we have to sensitize all my colleague ministers and various departments so that they have to follow the deadline, whatever the clearance has to happen. So that being the case, and of course we do have a high-level committee meeting, that's one, beyond 500 crores of investment. The Chief Minister himself will be chairing, and they have a special incentives for those industries, wherein large industries and huge investments will be, apart from, in addition to the industrial policy, the incentives will be given over there.
Yes, I remember reading that you made a very strong point about land acquisition. You said that should not trouble any company that wants to set up in Karnataka, and you would look into the fact that land clearances happen faster in Karnataka.
Yeah, that's what we are doing. A lot of reforms have been brought in the land. This one, I personally took a loan of around 5,000 crores to clean up all the properties, so that, whenever an industry comes, there should not be a delay because time is money for them. So the lands have to be allocated at a very fast pace, and we're doing that polling also very much.
Karnataka was also one of the first states to have a semiconductor policy.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about what's happening on that front, what progress has been made, and how do we attract global investors and manufacturers to come to Karnataka for this?
So as far as semiconductors, most of the semiconductor talent, the entire designing, everything happen in Karnataka. Lab research is one thing, which is investing huge in Karnataka. Already have been come up with a 10,000 crores plus this one, applied materials. And we have Bharat Semicon, which is also coming over there. And many more companies we are at talks. And if Government of India permits, because there's one area, we want to be another big in semiconductor chip manufacturing like Micron and all this, but it all depends upon the Government of India policy because they do give 50% incentives given by them. And states, of course, do. If take example of Micron in Gujarat, 50% of incentives from the union government, 30% from the state of Gujarat, and 20% is micro investment. And this is where most of the times political decisions happen. We had 2-3 rounds of discussions with 2-3 companies which have already decided about Karnataka, but when we went to Delhi, they did not come back, for obvious reasons, and I maintain a very good relationship with the central ministers. We have expressed this one. And of course, the central minister assured, next such whenever when they show interest, they won't deviate them, they'll come to Karnataka.
So tell me one thing, what's your one-line pitch to investors and the powers that be to invest more in Karnataka for manufacturing, to make it the live wire for manufacturing?
See, Karnataka has been always a progressive state, and more importantly, whenever we commit about any incentives or any this one, we deliver. That's the main strength. You can ask Toyota, we can ask anyone, whoever the companies, their incentives, unlike many other states, which I don't want to name, they promise, don't deliver. We deliver. We promise whatever the incentives are given there. We have a wonderful ecosystem, which is, as I told you, is pre-independence, 100 years old. A lot of talent is there, ecosystem is here. And everyone is welcome to Karnataka.
To take this point forward, I want to touch upon infrastructure, which is so pivotal for attracting any kind of investments, particularly in manufacturing. Tell us a bit, if you can share an update with us about the second proposed airport in Bangalore.
So probably this week, I'm hopeful, this week or maybe the Diwali festival or the holidays. Probably in a week or 2 weeks, we'll get the report of the Airport Authority of India.
And can you share some details about that?
No, I haven't got the report in my hand. How can I share that?
So are we looking at a 2-year horizon for this?
We have to identify 2 places. One is from Nelamangala to
Mangalore Road, which is 30 kilometers from Bangalore. And another one is on the Kanakapura Road. And there's no secret, both the places we have identified 5,000 acres here, Manalmangala to Kunigal Road, just beyond the first toll, just 30 kilometers from here. And because distance makes very important decision over there. And the flat land, beautiful land there. And the second one is on the Kanakapur Road. On the Kanakapur Road, just 0.5 kilometers inside, 5 kilometers from the nice, from the metro, and 10 kilometers from the nice road. And of course, the parallel road of Bangalore-Mysore Highway. These are the two sites at present. And the AI has inspected, and we're awaiting the report. And once we get a report, we'll have an expert committee on that. People like who have been consultants for Navi Mumbai Airport or Jewar Airport. People like, so we have shortlisted some people so that we do a proper exercise so that we can make one of the best second international airport.
I'm curious still, how would you choose between the two? What would be the deciding factor?
See, there are so many factors, because we are also, a lot of division is there with people as well as politicians, the legislators and all this, Some want, we want it in the north again, because most of the state district come from north side, even my district, my own district. But the other argument is, in the south, because Bangalore has an airport already in the north, and the south can make things better, so that, even it will ease the traffic was, people who are coming from south to come to the north. These are all the decisions, but I don't want to take any, have any personal decision. It will be ultimately decided by the passenger load, the other factors, cargo load also, and all other factors, which will decide the airport on merit, strictly on merit.
So it's a 2-year horizon that you are looking at?
See, until we have, of course, with the Bangalore airport, we have an exclusivity clause with them until 2033. No, another airport cannot come up anywhere around 150 kilometers from there. But now I decided to start it early because, if we start now, it will take 5 years of time. So by the time it will be 2033.
Okay.
So, but we have other plans. I can't share it here.
You can share some of them with us.
No. It cannot be. For certain reasons, So it may happen before 2033 also, with the exclusivity clause being there. Still, there's a strong possibility that we start before that also.
There's a strong possibility to start before 2033. All right.
That's a clue.
Moving on, we are seeing a lot of investments in Bangalore, even around Bangalore. But how do you think that this growth can be more balanced throughout the state? We are seeing new emerging areas for sure in the vicinity, but for Karnataka as a whole, to enjoy the benefit and, the multiplier effect of this kind of growth, how are you looking at this?
See, we have this one of beyond Bangalore, but particularly the IT industry. IT industries and some of the industries, they want Bangalore as a because of Bangalore being a global city. So, but beyond Bangalore this time, beyond Bangalore, of course, there are three divisions here. One is the division, then beyond Bangalore we have two other divisions like. So this time in the Global Investors Meet, the Beyond Bangalore was much more successful with 70% of the investments to be on the Beyond Bangalore program. And Beyond Bangalore again, Kolar and Chikbalapur around Bangalore, although rural part of Bangalore, which is around maybe 60-70 kilometers, 80 kilometers from Bangalore. Beyond that, also in the northern part of Karnataka, we have around 45% of the commitments coming there, and we are implementing them.
When you talk about implementing measures, to ensure that the commitments get translated into actual investments, tell us a bit about how do you want to not just attract the investments, but retain the investments? If you can dice down and slice some of these initiatives.
I do have a continuous meeting. We have our partners also, BCG there. And I personally follow up what is happening. Then out of almost 32 proposals have been, and after the Global Investors Meet, we written to everyone, contacted everyone. Out of this, almost 32 proposals are cleared now. And some have been also grounded also. We're very particular about that. And that happens because all the MOUs are genuine, unlike on paper. We could have done it instead of 10.27 lakh crores, we could have boosted up to 30 lakh crores, which would never happen. And I have maintained and I will have promised that 75 to 80% of the commitments of the 10 lakh crores will be realized.
And most of these sectors that you spoke about, where is your focus to drive maximum manufacturing capabilities?
So there are so many areas like EV, automobile, then we have clean energy, except green hydrogen, we are little, because of the evacuation facilities and the capability of Karnataka. So we may have around two important green hydrogen players here. Beyond that, it's going to be a little difficult. Other than that, we are in every area, whatever possible there,
My last question, since I think the room is very keen to interact with you after this. Tell me a bit about what we are doing on the sustainability front, because of course there is a lot of attention on green energy and using renewable sources. So when we talk about manufacturing, and you have indicated that you want to be a leader when it comes to the different states that have the best facilities and the best business environment to offer to investors, how do you keep the cost-effective part of the equation balanced with being climate responsible as well?
See, when I said this, Karnataka's contribution from solar, then wind and hydro is 67%. And we have a system already. They can either buy green power from the HESCOMs, whatever HESCOMs there. And of course, we do have captive generation. They can do their own solar parks or wind park. Or under the open access facility, they can even invest in a solar park or a wind park. And many IT companies are already being done. So their manufacturing becomes green. And most important this time, in the new industrial policy, we have certain incentives for all the best practices of sustainability. They have a special incentive for that.
Such as?
Incentive for that, special incentive for that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Could you take us through a couple of them?
So if your manufacturing is green, if you are whatever, what do you call, the practices what you are doing there, is all green. So they have incentives for that. So, for example, your discharges also, everything. So there's so many things covered under that, the clean mobile. This one, for the incentives part of sustainability. Mm-hmm. Water reuse of water. Power,
there was so much more to discuss with you, but I've been told that this room full of veterans have questions ready for you and they want to brainstorm several topics with you. So I'll end it here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. It's so nice meeting.
Thank you very much, Neha. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for our esteemed guest this evening, Mr. M.B. Patil, the Minister for Large and Medium Industry Infrastructure Development, Government of Karnataka. It's an honor to have you here with us, sir. Thank you. Well, as we almost come to the end of this evening's program, what an inspiring evening it has been. What an inspiring evening it has been, full of ideas, innovation, and intent. Through every conversation, one thing is clear. India is not just preparing for a manufacturing revolution. India itself is the revolution. From resilience to reinvention, from Make in India to Make for the World, we are scripting a new chapter in the global manufacturing leadership. And as we continue on this journey, we promise Zetwerk and CNBC-TV18 will continue to bring to you these insightful conversations and discussions, connecting policymakers, leaders, and the industry voices, driving India's manufacturing growth forward. Thank you once again for joining us this evening, and may I request you all to please join us for dinner.